What kind of navigation systems do we have on board our airplane?
Garmin 430. I think I'm going to go Bravo Golf.
Okay. So we got a Garmin 430. What else do we have for navigation? Other than GPS.
VOR.
Okay. Single VOR, dual VOR.
It's got dual VORs.
Okay. Do we have any other navigation? Do we have like an NDB or?
I don't believe so.
Or ADF? Okay. All right. So you mentioned maybe Garmin 430 GPS.
Mm-hmm.
How many satellites do we need for that GPS signal to work?
We want at least 4.
Okay. Does our GPS have RAIN?
Yes.
What is RAIN?
Receiver autonomous integrity monitoring. It'll give me a warning if the GPS has determined that it has poor integrity.
Okay.
So not enough GPSs, erroneous GPS signals, whatever.
Okay. Is RAIN something that we have to check ourselves, or is it done automatically? Or
RAIN will automatically check.
Okay.
It's autonomous integrity monitoring system.
Okay. When does the system usually do a RAIN check?
So the RAIN capability will be working as the GPS is running.
Mm-hmm.
I'll want to before a flight, either through the GPS system itself.
Mm-hmm.
I'll want to put in my flight plan and have it do a RAIN prediction.
Okay.
Especially for the departure and the approach segments, to have the GPS calculate and predict whether or not it's going to have proper GPS signal for those types of flight.
Okay.
So that's good practice.
Mm-hmm.
But it is an autonomous unit.
Okay. What does it mean that it's an autonomous unit?
That it performs the integrity monitoring by itself.
Okay. Good. Yeah. So it does. The RAIN will check, and will the RAIN then let you know if the
Yes. Yeah.
is bad? Okay.
Yeah. I'll get an enunciator.
Okay. So you mentioned I have to do a RAIN prediction.
Mm-hmm.
And you said I can do it in the unit itself,
Mm-hmm.
and I can also do it
Online.
Okay. If I do a RAIN prediction and I find out that RAIN was predicted to be down at my
Mhm.
destination, can I use the flight with my RAIN GPS?
It can't be. You need to have another type of navigational equipment available.
Okay.
And then in that situation, that GPS would be, because essentially what that's predicting then is that the GPS is going to lose its validity at some point during the flight. So you obviously can't be flying on that as this is going to take me where I need to go, because it's predicting that it's not.
Okay.
So either another GPS that's working on a different satellite, if you had that, or with WAS, or a VOR or an ADB, or just some other type of navigation.
An ADB?
NDB.
NDB. Okay. All right. Good. Yeah. So okay. And do we have WAS on our airplane?
Yes.
What is WAS?
It's better GPS, corrected for position error of satellite or the GPS unit itself. It's ground stations, so it's better GPS in simple words.
Okay.
What does it
stand for?
Wide area augmentation system.
Okay. So we have satellites in the air. We have
Yeah.
ground stations on the ground.
Correct.
And then, how is that making my airplane fly better?
The ground stations are correcting for errors in the satellite location or whatever, so it's just making it more accurate.
Okay. So the ground is correcting the satellites.
Correct.
Okay. And that comes to us through magic or somehow?
Through radio signals, probably.
Okay. Sure. All right. Okay. So we're getting that corrected signal to our airplane, and why would I want WAS?
You can use your GPS as a primary source of navigation. You can shoot approaches with a good heart on your GPS. It's more reliable. WAS is makes corrections instantaneously, and it's predicted to never go out. Whereas RAIN, it's just more reliable.
Okay.
It's said to be more reliable. But I think the big reason people want WAS is that it's when your GPS is WAS capable, it's really a fully capable IFR GPS.
I know a non-WASP GPS is not capable of IFR flight.
It is, but with limitations, such as needing to monitor another source of navigation if you're doing random navigation.
Okay.
And then you need to do your prediction checks every time you're going to plan to do an approach on one.
Okay. Are there certain things in the approach environment that we can do with WASP that we can't do without it?
So we can use a WASP GPS
approaches
for an alternate. Like if we're doing an alternate with the RNAV, we'd need it to be WASP or have a WASP capable GPS. Otherwise, you're not supposed to use a non-WASP GPS as an alternate GPS.
Okay. So if I have an ILS as my primary, can I use a non-WASP GPS as my alternate?
No.
Are you sure?
No. I'm pretty sure you can't. I'm pretty sure it has to be a WASP GPS.
So you can never use a GPS, a RAIN GPS as an alternate, ever?
Well, no, a WASP GPS is also going to have RAIN, so it's not necessarily...
Non-WASP GPS? A TSO 196.
Sure you could.
129.
Sure you could. If it's visual. Why do you like to get into... This guy loves doing RAIN and WASP questions.
Alright, we'll come back. We'll come back to that at the end.
Why don't you just make a video giving your spiel about WASP and RAIN?
It's not the scope. It's not on the scope of this video. If you become even more unruly, we're gonna have to.
Alright, I apologize.
So at this point, we might issue a discontinuance.
Mm-hmm.
There were some things in weather. Highs and lows were a little bit iffy.
Mm-hmm.
The alternate with WASP and RAIN was a little bit iffy. So we'll keep going.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about that in the debrief.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to continue the check ride? Okay, we'll keep going. We'll talk about that kind of stuff. We'll talk about that stuff at the end. All right, we're going to move on from WASP and RAIN.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You can review that with your instructor. How does our glass cockpit in the airplane, we have a glass cockpit airplane, Garmin 500, how does that get its information?
Through sensors.
Okay, what kinds of sensors?
It still has pitot static information coming in through a pitot tube and a static port.
Okay.
Going to an air data computer.
How is that?
It's going to have inertial sensors, and it's going to have AHRS.
Okay, what's AHRS?
Automatic heading something system. I don't remember what it stands for.
Okay, what does it give us?
Automatic heading. It gives us our attitude, like an attitude indicator. So it shows the relative position of around the...
How do we get our heading?
I believe the heading is also... Okay. So that's the heading. So the AHRS is going to give us both, like, it could give power direction gyro, so heading. It can also power the attitude indicator.
Okay.
So it does both of those.
So it might be an attitude and heading reference system.
Potentially, yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, so we got that. What about the pitot static information? How do we get it from the air moving onto the airplane into the cockpit on a glass screen? So what's doing that work?
The air data computer is doing all that work. It's
air data computer.
Air data computer. It's taking the temperature the outside air temperature, computing your true airspeed, and it can do all that magical stuff, and presenting it to your PFD, primary flight display.
Okay. And if my ADC failed, what kind of indication would I get on my primary flight display?
You would get red X's.
Okay. Yeah. On which instruments?
For your altitude, your vertical speed, buggy thing, and your airspeed.
Good. Okay.
Airspeed, altitude.
Okay. All right. So, what would happen if our static port iced over?
Would get a static blockage, which would affect our airspeed,
Okay.
altitude, and vertical speed.
How? How would it affect them? Let's say
we're flying our air data computer.
We've iced over.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any way to get that ice off the static port?
No.
Okay. So what if we didn't know we had ice on it and we started to climb? What would
again, on my G500 is going to show X's. It's going to show the air data computer is going to show that it's not receiving proper information, I believe. Let's say that.
Okay.
Let's say it doesn't know. Sure. If I'm climbing, my airspeed is going to drop. If I'm descending, my airspeed is going to go up. My VSI is going to read 0, and my altitude is going to level off where it froze.
Okay. Would the air data computer know if it was frozen?
To be honest, I can't say for 100% sure. Of course, you're going to have still air in the system, but I would imagine that technology's gotten smart enough now for it to detect a problem.
Okay.
But again, that's just a guess. I could read the manual to figure out for sure. And again, if I am identifying those problems, my airspeed, my altitude isn't changing, my VSI is stuck at 0, and I'm clearly changing altitude, then I'm going to know there's a pitot-static blockage somewhere.
Sure.
In this case, it would be static.
Okay. And so how could what would I do to fix the issue? Or how could I alleviate the problem?
Static air.
Okay. And if I pull alternate static air, my indicator is going to return exactly to where they were before?
No. Your static air is going to be a little bit lower.
Okay. And how can I find the corrections for various instruments with alternate static source?
In the POH.
POH. Yeah. Okay. Good. So there's icing on the static port. We can also have it other places in the airplane. What are the 3 different types of icing?
Rime, clear, and mixed.
Okay. And where do I see icing? Or where would I find icing on my airplane first?
Small protrudences such as the pitot tube, the OET gauge, outside air temperature gauge.
Okay. So let's say you are at 4,000 feet or 7,000 feet on this flight, and as you're flying along, you get in towards your destination airport, and you're flying through potentially suspected icing conditions, and now you're descending towards your airport, and you add 10 degrees of flaps, and all of a sudden your yoke starts buffeting, and you're getting a strong nose down tendency on the airplane. What might be happening to your airplane?
Tail plane stall.
Okay. What's a tailplane stall?
A stall of the horizontal stabilizer.
Okay. And what would you do to try to get out of there?
I would put the flaps back where they were.
Okay.
I'd want to pull back on the yoke and add power.
Okay. And add power, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Potentially, yeah.
You might want to get some of that wing loading off the tailplane, so you might not want to add that power right away.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's engine electric. How would you land differently if you suspected you had icing on the wings or on the tailplane?
I wouldn't use flaps. I would just come in faster.
Maybe why would you not use flaps?
Again, because there's the fear of stalling the horizontal stabilizer.
Okay, good. Yeah. Does your airplane have a recommended landing speed for icing?
I'd have to check. POH.
Yeah. Alright, good. Yeah, you can look at POH. Okay. So that's good for the icing and stuff. Are we using, on today's flight, deploying up your flight plan that you made, are we using any standard instrument departures or obstacle departure procedures?
We are not.
Okay. Do we have any to choose from that we could use?
We do not. Let me check for ODPs actually. I don't believe Superior has.
Where are we going to look?
The chart supplement.
Okay. Are SIDs and ODPs in the same place in the chart supplement?
I'm not sure. I look at them in ForeFlight, and it provides them to me in different categories.
Okay. And you said they're in the chart supplement?
In the instrument chart supplement.
Which is called what?
TERPs.
Yeah, the Terminal Procedure Publication. Okay. So do we have any ODPs?
No.
Are you sure?
Well, I'm looking, but I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty sure that we don't. Oh, just yep, we do. Right here, superior.
I think we have one for each runway.
Yeah, one for each. So there are 2 for runway 4.
Okay.
And then 1 for every other one.
If we're flying on an instrument flight plan, are we required to use one?
No.
Okay. When are they issued? When are they made? Why do they exist at some places and not others?
They're issued when a typical 40 to 1 climb gradient ramp slope isn't possible.
Sure. So, what kind of flying do we need to do generally out of an airport in order to assure that we don't hit obstacles in the instrument environment? Gosh. Sometimes you don't fly instruments forever.
400.
So there are three things.
Mm-hmm.
We want to have a minimum altitude crossing the end of the runway.
Oh, that's huge.
We want to have a minimum altitude before we turn.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to have a minimum climb rate.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Can you remember any of those?
Yep, I can. There's only one that I can't remember, which is the minimum departure height. I'm just going to guess that it's 50 feet.
Okay.
And we need to turn no earlier than 400 feet.
Okay.
AGL and climb at 200 foot per nautical mile.
Good. And you said 35 feet above the end of the runway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah. So we want to make sure that we can do at least that, and even if we can do that, maybe we'd still want to fly an ODP because they're published and because they're helpful. But you're right, they're not required. Are there any takeoff minimums for departing out of Superior? Takeoff weather minimums?
Yep.
Okay. Are we required to follow those?
Nope.
Who is required to follow them?
Operating for hire.
Okay. Yeah, so 135, 121.
Mm-hmm.
If 120 never came in here. Okay. Good. So we don't have to fly them, but are you going to use them for your flying or no?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So you use them. So you're aware that they exist and you know that they're there for that runway because you planned the cross country flight,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to follow those, and you'll probably fly an ODP as well because it's safe flying and it's a procedure. If you're leaving a towered airport that has an ODP, you need to tell ATC that you're going to fly the ODP when they tell you to take off. How are they going to know that you're, turning out early and flying to a certain heading and going a little bit off course? How are they going to know you're doing that?
You're going to tell them?
Yeah, that's a good answer. I should tell them if you're going to fly an ODP. Let's say you're at a towered airport and ATC tells you that all departures are currently using the ABC, it doesn't really matter, SID, but you've never flown a SID before. What are you going to do?
You can tell them that you're unfamiliar with the SID and ask for a departure that's not a SID.
Yeah. So how could you? What are the different ways you can ask for a no SID departure?
When you're filing your flight plan in the remarks, you can put no SID.
Yep.
And when you're given clearance, you can just reject it. I mean, say that I can't fly the SID.
Yeah.
And then you'll probably have to wait for them to figure out what to do with you, but they can't force you to fly anything.
Exactly. Yeah, they can't force you to fly if you're not comfortable with it. Say no. Good. So looking at the en route chart here, can you pull up the en route chart for our route? Just looking here, I want to know what is the On this Victor 413, what's the MEA?
Which way am I flying?
Good question. Say we're going west, southwest.
6,000 feet.
Okay. If I'm going northeast,
8,000 feet.
what's that number with the 2,900 with the asterisk?
That's the MOCA,
Okay. And what's a MOCA?
minimum obstacle clearance altitude.
Okay. And when can you fly the MOCA?
When you need to.
Can you always fly the MOCA?
Yeah, you can fly the MOCA.
Okay. What does the MOCA guarantee us?
Obstacle clearance?
Okay. Does it guarantee us anything else?
No. It's not going to guarantee you ATC or like VOR.
Okay, so if I was in a VOR only airplane, could I fly the MOCA the whole way? Okay, but we can because we have a GPS airplane?
WAS GPS.
Okay.
I guess you could do it with ring too.
What's this S thing? Rectangular S type thing?
That's showing you the distance to each VOR that are on those Victor routes, and it's recommending a changeover.
Okay. What's a changeover?
Switching from one VOR frequency to another.
Okay. What if on a route like this Victor 78, there's no changeover point? When am I going to change VORs?
About halfway.
Okay, halfway. All right. Can you tell me all the airport information at Medford? Just decode that for me.
Touchdown zone elevation is 1,478 feet. It has lighting.
Okay.
Longest runway is 6,000 feet.
Okay.
It has an AWAS-3,
Okay.
and that frequency is 119.025.
Good. Okay. A last question. Here's all clear. Where's the right line? Oh, I don't see it anymore. Oh, what does that R mean? 122.1 R.
That means they can receive on that frequency only.
Okay, yeah, so we can talk to them on that, or we should listen on that.
We should listen on that. As we can talk to them on that.
So we're going to talk to them, or we're going to listen to them on that?
I would need to look it up in the chart, in the legend.
Okay.
But I know it's telling us that they can either listen or speak only on that.
Okay. Yeah. So that's going to be for them to receive, which means that we'll talk and they'll listen on it. What are these?
Flyways. Military use.
Okay. So are they called flyways, or is a flyway something else? Used in VFR flying.
Yeah, those are just military flight routes.
Yeah. What's the difference between the VR and the IR?
Whether it's VFR traffic or IFR traffic.
Good. Yeah. Okay. And then what's the difference between green and brown airports?
Ones that have, I think it's ones that have instant approaches and ones that don't. Brown wouldn't.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. That looks good. Why don't we pull up? Can you pull up the Duluth Airport ILS 27 approach? ILS or localizer 27. ILS 27? Yep. ILS or localizer 27 approach. Okay, so in the bottom right corner of this chart, it says FAF to MAP 5.2 nautical miles, and then we got some numbers in minutes, seconds. What is that telling us?
That's showing how long it would take you to get to your. It's helping you identify your missed approach point.
Okay. Can we use timing to identify the missed approach point?
Yes.
Okay. What else can we use to identify the missed approach point?
The DA.
Sure. Yeah, for using the ILS. So what is our DA on the ILS?
1,621 feet.
Good. Okay. So looking at that one, so we have 1,621/40. What's 40 mean?
That's the visibility.
Okay. And what are the units on that?
Feet. So it's 4,000 feet.
Okay. So in hundreds of feet. Then what's the rest of that mean?
200 is what that is, AGL.
Okay.
And then in parentheses, that's for military use, but it's their minimums.
Okay. And then I see a category A, B, C, D, E. What are categories?
Speed. Approach speed for aircraft.
Okay. What category are we?
We're A.
Okay. And what speed do we fly our approaches at?
80 knots.
Okay. Could we ever be in category B?
Sure.
What would we need? When would we end up?
If we are approaching above 90 knots.
Okay. Sure. What's that black C next to the circling mean?
Means that it's, I don't know if you'd call it non-standard circling. It means it has the newer circling minimums.
Okay.
Or criteria, not minimum.
And where can we find those numbers?
In the terps.
Okay. Good. What is the final approach fix on this approach?
So are we talking about the ILS or the localizer?
Good answer. How about the ILS?
The final approach fix is where we pick up when we get the glide slope.
Okay.
Localizer. So
What altitude will we be at when we?
3,200 feet.
Okay. What about if we're doing the localizer approach? What's the final approach fix?
It's the Maltese cross there, so when we're at Ando.
And what altitude will we pick up when we cross that at for the localizer?
3,200. 3,150. Oh, no, that's if we're on the glide slope. So.
Can we start descending for the localizer localizer? Or do we have to stay at 3,200 until Ando?
I'm going to stay at 3,200, and then once I have the localizer at Ando, I descend.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Why does it say remain within 15 nautical miles?
For clear obstacle clearance.
Okay. Is that for the entire approach?
What do you mean?
Why is it telling us to say remain within? I mean, look at this. We're at Ando. We're only 5 miles from the runway. We're not even close to 15 miles away. Why is it telling us to remain 15 miles away, or within 15 miles? Is there a certain part of the approach where we're going close, where we could get 15 miles away?
Yeah.
What part of the approach would that be?
If we're going missed, or if we're flying the arc.
Okay, but the arc is 15 DME.
Sure.
So we might be okay going a little bit over 15 miles for that part of the approach, right? And surely if we're coming to the approach from the en route environment, we might be a little bit farther away than 15 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So why do you think it's telling us 15 miles? What part of the approach is it referring to?
I think just on the localizer in the glide slope. So assume if you came out from farther on and you're being vectored to final.
Okay. So let's say we're doing this approach, and we're approaching from the west, and we are going to the Duluth VOR, ATC's clears to the Duluth VOR, and then from there, they are vectoring us onto the approach course, that 273-degree approach course, but they're having us go outbound on 093 radial. And they tell us to report our procedure turn inbound. So now we're flying, say we're around somewhere right there on that outer marker, and we're flying east. When are we going to start our procedure turn?
I think in order to stay within 15 nautical miles.
Yeah, okay. So maybe it's for the procedure turn.
Sure. That sounds great.
Okay, good. And speaking of outer marker, what is the outer marker? That eyelash thing.
It's just for identifying fix.
Okay. What fix is that one identifying?
Ando. People find vocalizer. Or even if you're flying LS.
Good. Does our airplane have the ability to identify an outer marker?
It does.
Okay. What indication are we going to get?
Flashing outer marker light. I think it's white. I don't remember.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get a light. It's a blue light. Good. Okay. You can close out this approach, and let's try looking for something in particular. I can pull up the Duluth approaches again, and let's try the RNet. Or let me just take a look here. What is that? What's that V right there?
A visual descent point.
Okay. What is it? What is it there for?
It's showing it exists on non-precision approaches, and they show a point at which if you start your descent to land there, you'll be able to do it without any crazy maneuvering. So it's a standard descent.
Okay. Can I descend after the VDP?
Sure.
Okay. What considerations would I need to think of if I decide to do that?
You'll need a steeper descent gradient.
Okay.
And you might not be landing at the 1,000-footers.
Sure. Yeah, maybe landing farther down the runway. Mm-hmm. What about can I descend before the VDP?
Yeah.
Okay. What considerations would I need to think of if I did that?
You're going to be coming in low, and do you have the runway in sight? So the VDP is it's not mandating anything. It's just a reference point, and kind of telling you, like, hey, if you're flying at this point and you still can't see the runway, you're going to have trouble getting down to the runway. You fly past it.
Okay. Let's say you're flying into Marshfield. I know this isn't a Marshfield approach, but let's say we're flying into Marshfield and we're on an approach that has a VDP, and we're in IMC, and it's continuing to below our final approach fix, and it's kind of hazy. We can kind of see down to the ground. We kind of can't. What do we need to have happen before we can descend below the MDA down to land?
When you have the runway environment in sight, so you need to have one of a number of 11 things.
Okay.
So threshold lights, the runway centerline lights, the outer lights. Runway markings. You can descend down if you have the rails in sight, and identifier lights. If you can see the rabbit, the boop 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 boop.
What is
the approach lighting?
Okay.
Then you can descend down within 100 AGL.
Okay.
Following that to the runway. So you need to have one of those in sight, and then you can descend down to below the MDA.
Is there anything else you have to have met in order to descend?
you have to be able to keep it in sight.
Okay.
And your approach down the landing has to be a standard approach.
Okay, what does that mean?
You can't just S-turn or chop and drop or, nose down, power down.
Okay.
It has to be
So you want
a
to
safe approach.
So you want to be able to make a stabilized approach down to land.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what is a stabilized approach?
It's an approach with a controlled airspeed, with no non-standard maneuvering.
Okay.
So no steep turns, S-turns.
Sure. What about descent rate? Are we going to have a constant...
500 foot per minute.
Okay. Are we going to have a constant glide angle?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, constant glide angle approach. Is there anything else we need to descend?
Oh, sure, yeah. We need to have visibility requirements.
Okay. So if the visibility is less than what it says on the chart, can we shoot the approach?
We can shoot the approach.
Can you shoot the approach and land?
No.
Okay. So you could shoot the approach all day and just keep going this, I guess, yeah. Yeah, but you can't land. You shouldn't, you really, they're probably not even going to clear you for the approach, right? If the visibility is that low. You really, it's not a time to be practicing. You'd be wasting ATC's time. You'd be wasting your own time if you're doing that. Yeah, so we need to be able to make a stabilized approach. We need to be able to see these things. We need to have required weather visibility. So, does it make a lot of sense to descend before a VDP? If a VDP is a place where you can make a stabilized approach down to the runway?
Well, here I guess I don't. So the VDP depicted on that chart was depicted higher than minimums.
Yep.
So you can descend down to minimum. If you get down to minimums before the VDP, that's fine.
So the VDP on there is not shown vertically to
Sure, it's a lateral distance from the runway.
Yeah, if you're at the MDA, at that horizontal distance from the runway, you're at a spot where you can make a stabilized approach down to the runway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see conditions where it's fine descending after the VDP. Sure.
What about before?
If you have the runway in sight. Yeah.
Okay. 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 So let's pull up. So we're looking at RNAV approach right now. RNAV 0. Oh,
you gotta take them down.
You pull up that RNAV 04 approach again.
Was that in Superior?
Yeah, RNAV 04 in Superior approach. And let's look at. Let's look down to the minimums. How do I know what minimums I'm allowed to fly on my approach?
You need to know what your GPS is capable of, and your GPS will show you with the 430. Once I get within, once I get close, it'll show me what it has enough capability for.
Okay. And how do I know beforehand, for planning purposes, what the best possible case would be?
I can look in the manual for the GPS.
Okay, good. So in our case, what minimums would we be planning for if we were flying this approach?
We can do the LP minimums.
Okay. So how low could we go?
390 AGL.
Okay. Let's say I'm flying this approach and I get a loss of integrity indication on my GPS halfway through the approach. What should I do?
I should go around and let ATC know.
Okay. How would you go miss in this approach? Let's say you lose your you get loss of integrity 2 miles past Horrocks, the final approach fix. What would you do? Let's say you're at 1,400 feet. You'd probably be higher than that. Let's say you're at 2,000 feet.
I would continue flying it as published with backup instruments. So, actually, no, let me think about that because I just lost my GPS. So I definitely still have the aquarium, so I can still fly. It's still directional gyro. I can still fly 38 degrees. I have an altimeter that's separate from the GPS.
Can you fly a GPS approach with no GPS?
No. So I'm just thinking about how do I get to my missed approach point. So I can level off and I can still hold 38 degrees. So I know I'm still flying towards the runway. My problems come when I'm identifying when I'm over the runway, or when I'm close to the missed approach point.
Sure.
I'm really in quite a bit of trouble. I don't even know how I could fly the missed approach point. I guess I assume I'm going to be relying on just and then climbing right turn to 4,000 direct bear on. So I have to look here.
What are you gonna do?
So I'm gonna honestly I'm gonna level off. I'm gonna tell I'm not gonna descend farther.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep flying my current heading of 38 degrees. I'm gonna tell ATC that I've lost my GPS, and then probably I need vectors to bear on just to figure out time that
Okay. What are you gonna do at Barron? Try the GPS approach again?
No. So, I mean, I could see if the GPS if one satellite just went behind or something. But I'm probably gonna switch to VOR approach or ILS into Duluth.
Okay. Still take vectors to Barron though?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because I think I'm gonna need time. I'm probably gonna be flustered.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll just give me time to think.
Are you going to be able to fly a hold at Barron?
No. I don't have VOR. Like I said, flying to Barron just gives me time.
Will you be able to identify Barron?
Do I have DME? I don't think that thing has DME. No, so I don't identify it either. Because I have a course from the Duluth VOR, but I don't think I have DME. So I wouldn't be able to identify Barron either. So yeah, so I guess I'm going to need to just tell ATC that I need.
Could you request vectors to somewhere else?
Oh yeah. I could get on. I could just get to vectors to the Duluth VOR, and I can get established on the VOR. I can contact Duluth. Have them. I'm already talking to Duluth Approach. I can ask them to get sequenced in for VOR 03.
There you go.
Or the ILS 27.
Yeah, those sound like great ideas.
I'm just thinking that. Yeah, I would probably have a little bit of time of okay.
So when would you turn? Would you turn as soon as you get loss of integrity? Would you dive?
No, I guess I said I'm keeping the course. I'm keeping I'm keeping 38 degrees, and I'm not gonna turn until ATC gives me a vector to turn.
Okay, good. Yeah. Good. Okay. So what if you were doing this GPS approach and you GPS was working and you got down and say you're doing circling minimums, circling the runway 32 for example, and while you're circling you lose sight of the runway. What are you gonna do? You're doing the 04. You're doing this approach and you lost sight of the runway while circling for 32.
I'm gonna go missed.
Okay.
So I'm gonna get back over the runway. I'm gonna turn towards the runway.
Okay.
Tell ATC that I need to go missed.
Okay.
And I'm gonna fly essentially over the runway. I'm still GPS runway heading, and fly as published.
Good. Yeah. So turn towards the runway, fly as published. Good. Okay. Let's say we're flying you can leave this approach, and you can go to the VOR DME 21 approach at Duluth.
What
VOR DME 21 approach. Okay, can we fly this approach with our airplane?
Yes.
Do we have DME?
No.
Why are we allowed to fly it without DME?
We're able to use the GPS as a substitute for DME.
Okay. Can I fly a Can I use the GPS to fly the entire approach?
No.
Can I fly the arc with the GPS?
I can fly the arc with the GPS.
At what point do I have to stop using the GPS?
Final approach. Fix.
Okay.
Point.
And then from there I...
VOR.
Okay, good, yeah. You fly VOR, produce VOR. Alright, good. Looking good on your equipment there. So, you can go back to your en route and I want to look at your chart here. I'm going to talk about one more emergency. So looking at your route, if you, let's say we are here at Lampy and we are flying at 7,000.
Sure.
And we lose our radio. What are we going to do?
We're going to fly...
So you've been cleared all the way, as filed. You've been told to climb, maintain 7,000. You've not been told to expect anything. And you're cleared direct.
I'm going to squawk 7600.
Okay.
And I'm going to keep flying as I was cleared.
Okay.
I'm told to expect. Now I'm going to check here. I know it doesn't, but if the MEA were to go above 7,000, I would fly up to the MEA.
Okay.
When needed.
When would you commence that turn? Let's say
commence the turn.
Let's say at NTAF, the MEA climbed at 9,000. Would you start that climb before NTAF or?
It depends. Some of them show that there's a crossover that you need to cross it over at a certain altitude. Some of them will just depict it regular, and that means that you can start climbing when you get there.
Okay. Good. All right. So you'd fly 7,000, you said, and then how would you take me all the way to Marshfield?
I'm just going to keep flying.
Okay.
Hopefully, I'm going to keep trying different frequencies, recycle the radio. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep flying as cleared. And where was I cleared to?
Marshfield. You cleared directly to Marshfield.
Well, as filed.
Sure, as filed. Yeah.
So I'm gonna fly to Marshfield, and then at my estimated time of arrival, I'm gonna land on the approach that I filed, or the best wind approach if necessary.
Okay. So are you going to land at your estimated time of arrival, or are you going to cross over your clearance limit at the estimated time of arrival?
I don't think there's a... okay, so what you're asking is, if I'm cleared to Marshfield, you're asking, am I going to cross over Marshfield at 12 p.m., or am I going to...
touch down on the ground at 12 p.m.?
I'm going to arrive at the airport at 12 p.m.
Okay, then what will you do?
Then I'm going to land the best way possible.
Okay, yeah. Good. Okay. You've done really good today. Seems like you know your stuff. So one more question here, kind of leaving this stuff behind, talking now more about you as a pilot. I want to make sure that you have your own personal minimum set and that kind of thing. Do you have your own personal minimum sheet? Or jar something like that? Okay, and you'll fly with that. Why do you want to get an instrument rating today?
To fly safer. To have a better understanding of my own limitations. And to be more capable in flight in clouds, to be prepared for flight in clouds and limited visibility, and to build skills, confidence.
Okay. So with that, I just want to talk about some safety things before we move on. So have you heard of the term VFR into IMC?
If I turn this off.
Yeah.
I've heard of VFR into IMC.
Can you tell me what that is?
An aircraft under visual flight rules flying into instrument meteorological conditions.
Okay. Why is it dangerous?
Because the pilot and or the aircraft may be unprepared, unequipped for flight in low visibility.
Okay. So as an instrument pilot, if you were flying on a VFR flight plan and you find yourself in a VFR and IMC situation, what course of action would you take?
I would do the 180-degree turn.
Okay.
If I can, to get out of the clouds.
Is that it?
Yeah, I'd get out of the clouds.
Okay. Would you consider filing IFR flight plan in the air?
Sure.
Okay.
If an immediate turn, if an immediate 180 degree turn or whatever degree turn can't get me and keep me out of the clouds, then I would consider declaring an emergency, and I would consider filing an IFR flight plan.
Okay.
Pop up IFR.
Good. Okay. Let's say you're flying along in clouds, and maybe you're a little bit off your proficiency or something like that. For whatever reason, you get into a little bit of a turn. And it's just a light turn. It's sustained. You haven't really noticed you're in a turn, and you drop your pen down by your feet. Is there anything you'd be worried about if you reach out to grab that pen? I mean, obviously in the situation you're not going to realize maybe you're in a turn, but what might happen if you reach down and grab that pen?
Oh, I become disoriented.
Okay. What is that called?
That is Coriolis effect.
Sure. Yeah. And so what kind of disorientation might you feel?
Well, so if I've gotten into a sustained turn and the liquid in my ear have kind of gotten used to the turn, and then any movement is going to disorient me from that. So
yeah,
I could feel anything. I could feel a bank in the opposite direction. I could feel like I'm straight and level.
Yeah.
More likely I'm going to feel like I'm dizzy and want to throw up.
Okay. Yeah, maybe like a turn in a different axis. Moving forward, you might feel like you're having. Okay, good. Can you tell me what the graveyard spiral is?
Sure. If you're in a bank, and you might not feel you're in a bank, especially if you're in the bank for a while, and you might feel you're straight and level, but you've lost some of your vertical component of lift, so you might start a descent. And given your power setting, you might feel like this should be straight and level, so you start pulling the nose a little bit higher, but all that's doing is tightening your spin. And now, as you drop farther into the bank, the aircraft has a tendency to further itself into the bank, and you're end up pulling even more up, maybe adding power, and it's just going to, well, maybe not necessarily adding power, but it's going to tighten your spiral, and you're going to get into a tight descent.
Yeah. Spiral. A steep spiral. Okay. And what is the somatic gravic illusion?
Somatic gravic is has to do with acceleration and deceleration. If you accelerate, it can feel like as your head moves back, that makes it feel like you're pointing nose up. Deceleration will move your head forward, make you feel like you're descending. It's especially dangerous on takeoff, or landing, but especially takeoff. Acceleration might feel like your nose high, so you'll nose low, and you will never take off. Or if you're in a tail wheel, your prop strike and flip over.
Yeah. Or you might end up in a dive if you're just off the ground. You might go right down. Yeah, exactly. Good. All right. Well, that concludes the oral assessment for the Instrument Checkride. As I said before, unfortunately, you have been issued a notice of disapproval. So what that means is we'll go finish up the paperwork for today. We'll send you off to your instructor. You'll just review a couple things with him. I'll have a word with him on the phone. We'll review a couple things, and then you can get signed off, and then we'll come back and try to get you finished off and get you to the flying portion. For the flying portion, we'll work together to create a plan that meets the entirety of the ACS. I'm sure you've read the ACS and are familiar with it. We'll go shoot some approaches. How does that sound?
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure with you today. Yeah.
I haven't studied and needed a 2-hour oral. 2 hours, come on. I didn't study at all.
Everybody, if you made it this far, thank you so much.
I have a headache.
It was a lot of fun doing this. It was a lot for the so for those of you that watched our private pilot video, this has been a heavily requested video, and so we're happy to do it for you guys. That being said, one of the biggest critiques we got from that first video, aside from the one-sided audio, was that it was too easy. So we tried to make this one a little bit harder, a little bit longer, and cover a couple more things. Andrew has not studied instrument stuff in a long time, and I kind of went hard on him. But yeah, we hope this was
really helpful for you guys, and we thank you so much for watching. Good luck on your tests. Enjoy flying. Fly safe. Yep.